She had always loved music. From the moment her fingers first touched the piano keys as a small child, she felt a connection that she could not explain. Every note she played seemed to carry a piece of her heart. She had spent years practicing alone in a small room, with a window that let the sunlight in during the day and the moonlight at night. The piano was old, its keys a little worn, but she knew it better than anyone else. It had become her closest friend, her teacher, and her escape from the world. Her talent was undeniable, though it had been hidden for most of her life. She played at home, in small community events, and in her local music school, but she had never performed in front of a truly large audience. That opportunity seemed distant, almost impossible. She sometimes dreamed of a big stage, bright lights, and a crowd that would listen not just politely, but with real emotion. She had imagined that moment countless times, feeling the excitement and the nervousness that came with it. Yet it had remained just a dream. One afternoon, she received a letter that changed everything. The invitation was to perform at a prestigious concert, a place where musicians from all over the country showcased their talent. She could hardly believe it. The organizers requested that she play a simple tune to warm up the audience before the main performers took the stage. It was not the grand performance she had dreamed of, but it was a start. It was the chance to step into the light, to let people see her, and to let her music speak. The day of the concert arrived. She could feel her heart beating faster than ever. The venue was enormous, filled with rows of seats stretching farther than she had ever seen. The air smelled faintly of polished wood and flowers, a scent that made her feel both calm and nervous at the same time. She had prepared her simple tune perfectly, practicing it over and over in her room until she could play it without thinking. Yet now, standing behind the heavy curtain, she felt a wave of fear. What if she made a mistake? What if the audience did not care? What if her music did not reach them the way it did in her small room at home? As she peeked through the curtain, she saw the audience slowly filling the seats. Families, elderly couples, young children, and music lovers from all walks of life were arriving. The murmurs of conversation, the sound of chairs being pulled out, and the occasional laughter made her stomach twist with nerves. She had imagined this moment so many times, but reality felt different. Reality was bigger, louder, and more intense. She took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. She reminded herself of why she loved music, of how it had always been her companion, and how the piano had never let her down. When it was finally her turn, she walked toward the piano. The stage was bright, the lights almost blinding, and the audience now quiet, watching her every move. She sat down, adjusted the bench, and placed her fingers gently on the keys. The world seemed to slow down. She could hear her own heartbeat, and for a moment, everything else disappeared. It was just her, the piano, and the music waiting to come alive. She began to play the simple tune. The notes were clear and soft, filling the hall with a gentle melody. At first, the audience listened politely, some nodding their heads, some leaning forward, others just observing quietly. She felt a small sense of relief. She was doing exactly what was asked, nothing more, nothing less. Yet as she played, something inside her stirred. She could hear the tune in a new way, feel it in a deeper way. The simple notes she had played countless times at home began to transform in her mind, taking on layers of emotion and subtle variations that she had never tried before. Her fingers moved slightly faster, more confidently, exploring small variations, adding gentle pauses here and there. The audience noticed the change. Some leaned closer, curious about the slight differences, the unexpected nuances. She felt a spark of excitement. She could feel the music growing, flowing through her body, as if it had a life of its own. It was still the simple tune she had been asked to play, but it was becoming something more, something alive. She was aware of the risk she was taking. The organizers had asked for a simple tune, and she was beginning to go beyond that. What if they were upset? What if the audience did not like it? But she could not stop herself. The music demanded more. It was as if the piano itself was guiding her hands, encouraging her to take the simple melody and turn it into something extraordinary. She felt a thrill of fear mixed with joy. This was the moment she had dreamed of, the chance to show the world what her music could really do. As she continued, the audience's reaction changed. The murmurs of polite listening became whispers of curiosity, then gasps of surprise. People began to notice the depth, the emotion, the way she was making the piano sing in ways they had not expected. She saw smiles forming, eyes widening, some leaning forward in anticipation. The simple tune had become a journey, a story told through her fingers. She could feel the connection growing, feel the audience responding to her every movement, her every note. Her confidence grew with each passing moment. The nervousness that had gripped her when she first stepped on stage began to fade, replaced by a sense of purpose and joy. She was no longer just playing a simple tune. She was speaking through her music, sharing a part of herself with everyone in the hall. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the melody guide her, letting her emotions pour into the keys. The piano responded, each note carrying the weight of her feelings, her dreams, her hopes. Time seemed to stretch and compress at the same time. Minutes passed like seconds, and she lost all sense of the audience and the stage. It was just her and the music, an intimate conversation that everyone else in the hall was witnessing. She felt free, alive, and connected in a way she had never experienced before. The simple tune had become a canvas, and she was painting with sound, each stroke a reflection of her heart. When the tune ended, there was a moment of silence. The hall held its breath, as if no one wanted to break the magic that had been created. Then, slowly, applause began to rise. At first, it was soft, hesitant, but it quickly grew louder, stronger, filling the space with sound. She opened her eyes to see people standing, clapping, some with tears in their eyes, others smiling in awe. She could hardly believe it. What had begun as a simple tune had captured the hearts of everyone in the room. She stood there for a moment, letting the applause wash over her. A mixture of relief, pride, and gratitude filled her. She had stepped onto the stage timid and uncertain, and now she felt transformed. She had taken a small opportunity and turned it into something unforgettable. She realized that this was just the beginning, that there were no limits to what she could achieve if she trusted herself and followed her music. Backstage, she felt the adrenaline slowly fade, replaced by a calm satisfaction. She had faced her fear, embraced the unknown, and found her voice. The simple tune had been the doorway, but she had made it her own. She knew that this experience would stay with her forever, a reminder that courage, passion, and authenticity could create moments that touched the hearts of many. As she walked away from the piano, she felt a new sense of purpose. This was more than a performance. It was a statement of who she was, of what she could do, and of the power of music to connect people. She knew that the journey ahead would be challenging, filled with both triumphs and obstacles, but she felt ready. The stage had opened a door, and she was eager to walk through it, to explore the world of possibilities that awaited her. Even after the concert ended, the memory of that moment stayed with her. She would remember the feeling of the keys under her fingers, the sound of the audience's reaction, and the realization that she had found her true voice. It was a moment that would define her path as a musician, a moment that proved that even the simplest opportunity, approached with courage and heart, could lead to something extraordinary. She began her performance with the simple tune she had been asked to play. The notes came out smooth and clear, each one gentle and careful. She could see the audience sitting quietly, watching her with polite interest. Some nodded their heads to the rhythm, some whispered softly to each other, and some just sat still, listening without moving. She felt a strange mix of relief and nervousness. She was doing exactly what was expected, but deep down, she wanted more. She wanted the music to reach them, to touch their hearts. As she played, her fingers began to move more confidently over the keys. She started to add small touches she had practiced in her room but had never tried in public. A slight pause here, a gentle emphasis there, a subtle change in speed. The audience began to notice the differences. Some turned their heads slightly curious, sensing something unusual about the performance. The simple tune she had been asked to play was beginning to feel alive, and she felt a thrill as she realized she could make it more than just a warm-up. Her mind wandered to all the hours she had spent practicing alone. Every mistake she had made, every struggle, every moment of frustration had led her to this point. She remembered the nights when she would play until her fingers ached, when she had no one to applaud her, no one to notice her skill. And now, here she was, in a hall full of people who would soon understand what music could really do when it came from the heart. She took a deep breath and let the music flow more freely. She added soft variations to the melody, tiny ornaments that made the notes shimmer in a new way. The audience reacted subtly at first, leaning forward, listening more intently. Some faces showed surprise, some confusion, but most reflected curiosity and growing attention. She could feel the connection forming, the invisible thread linking her to each person in the room through the sound of the piano. With each passing moment, she became more confident. She could feel the music taking control of her body. Her fingers moved on their own, following a rhythm that seemed bigger than her, guided by something deeper than conscious thought. The simple tune she had started with was transforming into a story, a journey, a living thing that grew with every note. She could sense the energy in the room changing, the polite attention shifting into engagement, into anticipation. She remembered the advice she had once been given. Music is not just about notes and technique. It is about emotion, about sharing a part of yourself with the world. That thought gave her courage. She allowed herself to take risks, to add flourishes and dynamics that she had never dared to try in public. A quiet note here, a bold chord there, a pause that held the audience in suspense. She could see heads turning, eyes widening, as the music became something unexpected, something alive. The audience started to react more visibly. Some were leaning forward, resting their elbows on the seats in front of them, trying to catch every sound. Others had smiles spreading across their faces, realizing they were witnessing something unique. She could feel the energy in the hall shifting, the polite interest replaced by fascination. Every note she played was a bridge connecting her heart to theirs, and she felt the thrill of that connection. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting herself feel the music fully. She remembered her life, her struggles, her dreams, and poured them into the keys. The simple tune was now a canvas, and she was painting with sound, expressing emotions she had never been able to put into words. The piano responded as if it understood her, each note ringing out clearly, echoing in the hall, carrying her story to everyone listening. Her performance began to take on a rhythm of its own. She added small shifts in tempo, making the music dance and sway. The audience reacted to every subtle change, some nodding, some tapping their feet quietly, some closing their eyes to savor the moment. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing she was creating a shared experience, a memory that would stay with them long after the concert ended. Even as she played, she felt the tension in the room. Some traditionalists might have frowned, expecting a simple, predictable tune, but she knew she had to follow her heart. The risk was worth it. The music demanded more than a cautious performance. It demanded honesty, emotion, and courage. She could feel the audience starting to understand that, to sense the honesty behind each note. Her fingers flew over the keys with increasing confidence. She added layers of sound, letting chords resonate, letting melodies overlap. The music became a story of its own, telling of struggle, hope, and triumph. The audience was no longer just watching. They were experiencing it, feeling every rise and fall, every whisper and shout within the music. She felt connected to them in a way she had never imagined possible. Time seemed to lose its meaning. The simple tune had become a living thing, breathing with every note she played. She could feel the hall listening, holding its breath, waiting to see where the music would take them. And she felt a rush of excitement. She was in control, yet at the mercy of the music itself. She had become part of something bigger than herself, part of a shared experience that could not be repeated or recreated. She glanced up briefly and noticed the expressions on the faces of the audience. Some were smiling, some were leaning forward, some had their eyes closed. She saw emotions reflected back at her. Surprise, admiration, joy, even a few tears. She felt a warmth in her chest, knowing that her music was touching them, that the simple tune she had started with had grown into something far beyond what anyone had expected. Encouraged by their reactions, she pushed herself further. She added a new layer of complexity, weaving small motifs into the melody, exploring the full range of the piano. Her heart raced with excitement, but she also felt a sense of calm. This was where she belonged on that stage, expressing herself through music. Every note, every chord, every pause was an extension of her soul. The simple tune had become a tapestry, each thread carefully placed, yet flowing naturally. She could feel the energy in the room rising, matching her own exhilaration. The audience was engaged, fully present, riding the waves of emotion she created. She could see people exchanging glances, sharing unspoken reactions to the beauty unfolding before them. She felt proud, not of herself alone, but of the shared experience she was creating. Her confidence soared as she continued. She was no longer just performing. She was communicating, telling a story without words. The audience responded with every shift in tempo, every flourish of the melody, every delicate touch of the keys. She could sense the anticipation building, the collective breath of the hall waiting for what would come next. And she smiled inwardly, knowing she had the power to guide them through the journey. The music began to swell, growing in intensity, yet never losing its emotional depth. She added dramatic chords, unexpected pauses, gentle runs that flowed like water across the keys. The audience was mesmerized. She could feel the room vibrating with their engagement, a living energy that pushed her to give even more. Every note became a conversation, a connection, a bridge between her heart and theirs. Even in moments of quiet, the music spoke volumes. She played softly, letting the melody linger in the air, creating tension and release. The audience leaned in, as if trying to catch every whisper of sound, every subtle nuance. She felt the weight of the moment, knowing that this simple tune had become a powerful statement, a performance that no one would forget. As the piece continued, she allowed herself to take risks, to explore new directions, to let the music surprise her as much as the audience. Her fingers moved instinctively, guided by her intuition, by the emotion that flowed through her. She felt alive in a way she never had before, completely immersed in the music, completely connected to the people listening. The final moments approached, and she began to bring the tune to a gentle close. She returned to the original melody, now enriched by all the variations and emotions she had added. The audience listened intently, aware that the journey was ending, savoring the final notes. She felt a mixture of relief and satisfaction, knowing she had taken the simple tune and made it something extraordinary, something that would be remembered. When the last note faded, there was a brief silence. Then, slowly, the audience began to applaud. At first, it was soft, tentative. Then it grew louder, stronger, filling the hall with sound. She stood there, heart racing, overwhelmed by the reaction. They had followed her, felt her music, and responded with genuine emotion. She had taken a risk, and it had paid off in a way she could never have imagined. Backstage, she felt a rush of joy and pride. The simple tune had been transformed, the audience had been captivated, and she had found her voice. She realized that music was not just about playing the right notes, but about sharing a piece of herself, taking risks, and trusting her instincts. The experience had given her confidence, courage, and a renewed sense of purpose. She knew that this was only the beginning, and that her journey as a musician was just starting. She felt a sudden surge of courage as the simple tune continued to unfold beneath her fingers. The audience's attention was no longer just polite curiosity. They were drawn into the music, sensing the subtle changes and feeling the emotions behind each note. She realized that the simple tune could be more than just a warm-up, more than just a polite gesture. It could become a story, a journey, something that moved people and stayed with them long after the performance ended. Her fingers moved with a newfound confidence. She began to add flourishes and gentle improvisations, weaving delicate patterns into the melody. Every chord became an expression of her heart, every note a small revelation. She could feel the music lifting her, carrying her along with it. The piano seemed to respond to her emotions, each key resonating with her courage and desire to create something unforgettable. The audience reacted almost instantly. Some leaned forward, eager to hear what she would do next. Others closed their eyes, letting the sound wash over them, feeling the layers of emotion she poured into the music. She felt connected to them in a way that was both thrilling and humbling. For the first time, she understood the true power of music, its ability to link hearts and minds across space and time. She allowed herself to explore new rhythms and dynamics, shifting from gentle whispers to bold statements, letting the music breathe and change naturally. She could hear the hall responding, the vibrations of the piano filling every corner. The sound seemed larger than life, yet intimate, as if it were speaking directly to each person in the audience. She felt exhilarated, knowing that she had stepped beyond what was expected and had created something entirely her own. The simple tune she had been assigned became a foundation for her imagination. She added subtle harmonies, unexpected turns, and gentle pauses that made the audience hold their breath. The performance had become a conversation, not just a display of skill. Every note, every pause, every variation was a message, a way to communicate her story without words. She felt free, alive, and deeply connected to her music and to the people listening. She remembered all the times she had been told to play it safe, to follow the rules, to stay within limits. But now those limits seemed meaningless. She was discovering that true music came from risk, from trust in herself, and from a willingness to follow her instincts. She felt a surge of confidence and joy. The audience was not just observing. They were participating, emotionally invested, carried along by the story she was telling through sound. As she continued, the music grew richer and more complex. She allowed her emotions to guide her fingers, creating moments of tension and release, of quiet reflection and intense passion. She could feel the audience responding, leaning in, moving with the flow of the melody. The simple tune had blossomed into a living, breathing entity, full of life and expression. She marveled at how something so small could become so powerful when she dared to take it further. Her mind became fully absorbed in the performance. She no longer thought about mistakes, about the audience's judgment, or about the pressure of the stage. She was entirely present, fully immersed in the music. Her fingers danced over the keys, exploring every possibility, guided by intuition and emotion. The piano seemed to understand her completely, responding to every subtle shift in touch and pressure, echoing her heart in every note. The audience could feel the transformation as well. Faces reflected surprise, admiration, and wonder. People whispered softly to each other, sharing their amazement. Some had tears in their eyes, moved by the unexpected beauty and depth of the performance. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, realizing that her risk had created a genuine, shared experience. The simple tune was no longer just a melody. It was a story of courage, expression, and connection. She began to take even greater risks, introducing small bursts of energy and unexpected chords. Each moment was carefully balanced, yet daring, carrying the audience along without breaking the flow. She could hear the hall responding, the resonance of the piano filling every corner, creating a space that felt both intimate and grand. She felt a sense of exhilaration unlike anything she had experienced before. She was in control, yet surrendered to the music, allowing it to guide her. Her emotions ran deep, and she let them flow through the keys. She remembered her childhood, the long hours of practice, the moments of doubt, and the small triumphs that had led her here. She poured all of that into her performance, letting each note carry a piece of her journey. The audience felt it too, as if they were walking beside her through every memory, every dream, every fear overcome. The music began to build, growing in intensity and complexity. She used the full range of the piano, from the softest whispers to the loudest declarations. Each variation was carefully crafted, yet spontaneous, a reflection of her heart in that moment. The audience was spellbound, caught in the ebb and flow of sound, unable to look away. She could sense their anticipation, their emotional engagement, and it fueled her creativity even further. She felt a profound sense of joy and freedom. The piano was no longer just an instrument. It was an extension of herself. Every note was an expression of who she was, every chord a statement of her courage. She had stepped beyond expectations, beyond the boundaries of the simple tune, and created something that resonated deeply with everyone present. The audience was no longer just observers. They were participants in the story she told through music. Time seemed to stretch and compress simultaneously. Minutes felt like seconds, and she lost all sense of the outside world. She was fully immersed, fully present, fully alive. The simple tune had transformed into a complex, emotional journey, each variation carrying meaning, each pause inviting reflection. She felt a sense of wonder at what she had achieved, at the power of music to connect people, to communicate emotions without words. As she played, she noticed subtle reactions in the audience. Some people were leaning forward, eyes wide with anticipation. Others were closing their eyes, letting the music envelop them. Some whispered softly to each other, sharing their admiration. She felt a warm connection with each person, as if they were sharing in her joy, her courage, and her story. The music had created a bridge between her and them, a silent conversation that spoke louder than words ever could. Her fingers moved faster, then slower, exploring every nuance of the piano. She added unexpected chords, gentle arpeggios, and flowing sequences that made the melody dance. The audience was completely captivated, drawn into the performance, hanging on every note. She felt a surge of pride and excitement, knowing that she had turned a simple tune into a remarkable journey that no one would forget. She allowed herself to be vulnerable, letting her emotions guide every decision. The piano became a mirror of her soul, reflecting her hopes, her fears, and her dreams. Each note carried meaning, each phrase told a story. The audience felt it too, responding with energy, silence, and applause. The performance had become more than music. It was an experience, a shared moment of human connection that transcended the simple tune she had started with. As she approached the final section, she felt a mixture of exhilaration and calm. She returned to the original melody, but now it was enriched with the variations, the improvisations, and the emotions she had poured into it. The audience was fully present, listening with rapt attention. She felt a sense of completion, of fulfillment, knowing that she had given everything she had to this performance. The last notes lingered in the hall, echoing softly, creating a moment of stillness. The audience remained quiet for a heartbeat, then slowly, applause began to rise. At first, it was gentle, tentative, but it quickly grew, filling the space with sound. She felt a wave of relief, pride, and joy wash over her. The simple tune had become a testament to courage, creativity, and emotional expression. She had taken a risk, trusted herself, and the result was unforgettable. Backstage, she felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The audience's reaction had confirmed what she had always known. Music was more than technique, more than skill. It was a way to share a piece of oneself with the world. She had transformed a small, simple opportunity into something extraordinary. She knew that this was just the beginning, and that her journey as a musician had only just begun, filled with possibilities, challenges, and moments of magic waiting to be discovered. As she continued to play, she could feel the energy in the hall changing. The audience was no longer simply listening. They were part of the music, drawn into its flow and movement. Faces reflected awe and fascination, some leaning forward, others closing their eyes to feel every vibration of the piano. She felt an intense connection with them, as if each note she played reached directly into their hearts. The simple tune had grown far beyond its original form, becoming a shared experience that neither she nor the audience would forget. She let herself explore the full emotional range of the music. From gentle, soft whispers to bold, dramatic chords, she allowed her feelings to guide her hands. Every note became an expression of hope, longing, courage, and joy. The audience responded to these shifts, their reaction subtle at first, then growing stronger. Some murmured in surprise, some smiled widely, some even gasped at the beauty they were hearing. She could feel their attention, their engagement, their hearts beating with her music. The hall seemed alive. The sound of the piano echoed, filling every corner, touching every listener. She had become part of something bigger than herself, a shared moment suspended in time. She felt exhilarated but also calm, grounded by the connection she had made. Every chord she struck carried the weight of her emotions. Every pause added depth to the story she was telling. She realized that this was why she had loved music all her life. Its power to create unity, understanding, and beauty. She began to experiment with tempo and rhythm, slowing down some sections to let the melody breathe, then speeding up others to create excitement and anticipation. The audience was captivated. She could sense them leaning in, hanging on each note, feeling the tension and release she created. The simple tune had become a canvas for her imagination, and she painted it with all the colors of her emotions. Each variation added a new layer, a new dimension, a new depth to the performance. As she played, she remembered her journey. The long hours of practice, the sacrifices, the moments of doubt and struggle. All of it had led to this moment. She poured those memories into the music, letting the audience feel her story through every key she pressed. She could see their faces changing, reflecting surprise, admiration, and wonder. Some closed their eyes to absorb every sound. Others whispered softly to the person next to them, sharing their amazement. She felt a warmth in her chest, knowing that her music had reached them on a deep level. Her confidence grew with each passing moment. She felt the music guiding her, lifting her beyond her fears and insecurities. She could sense the audience's anticipation building, their attention fully captured. Every note became a bridge between her and them, a conversation without words. She had stepped beyond the simple tune she was assigned and created something profound, something that resonated with everyone in the hall. She felt alive in a way she had never felt before. She allowed herself to take greater risks. She added unexpected harmonies, subtle variations, and dramatic flourishes. The audience responded with surprise and delight, captivated by the complexity and emotion in the performance. She could feel their energy feeding back into her, encouraging her to explore further, to push boundaries, to create something unforgettable. The simple tune had become a living, breathing story, full of twists and turns, tension and release, hope and triumph. Every so often, she paused, letting the silence speak as loudly as the notes. The audience leaned in, sensing the significance of each pause, feeling the anticipation of what was to come. She played with dynamics, letting some phrases float softly, almost like a whisper, then striking bold chords that echoed through the hall. The audience was fully engaged, their emotions intertwined with the music, their attention unwavering. She could feel their hearts responding to hers, a silent conversation through the piano. She was aware of the risk she was taking. Some might have expected a simple performance, predictable and safe. But she trusted herself, trusted the music, and trusted the connection she had made with the audience. She knew that the reward of expressing herself fully was worth any uncertainty. The hall had become a shared space of emotion, where she and the audience existed together in the music, fully present, fully alive. Her fingers moved with grace and precision, exploring the full range of the piano. She allowed the melody to flow naturally, letting inspiration guide her through unexpected turns and delicate passages. The audience was mesmerized, their eyes fixed on her hands, their ears attuned to every nuance. She felt a sense of exhilaration and freedom, knowing that she was creating something unique, something that would be remembered long after the concert ended. The music began to swell, growing in intensity and richness. She played with passion and sensitivity, blending gentle harmonies with bold, resonant chords. The audience was fully immersed, experiencing the highs and lows of the performance as if they were part of the journey. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, realizing that she had taken a simple tune and transformed it into something extraordinary. The connection with the audience was tangible, a living energy that surrounded her and filled the hall. She remembered her early days of practice, alone in her room, struggling to perfect each note, each phrase. Those moments had been difficult, but they had prepared her for this performance. She poured all of that experience into her music, letting the audience feel the depth of her journey. They were witnessing not just a performance, but a story of dedication, courage, and passion. Each note carried her emotions, each chord reflected her heart, and the audience responded with rapt attention. As the performance continued, she allowed herself to be fully vulnerable. She let her emotions flow freely through the keys, trusting that the audience would understand and connect with her. The piano became an extension of herself, each note a reflection of her inner world. The audience felt it too, responding with energy, quiet awe, and admiration. The simple tune had become a powerful expression of human emotion, a shared experience that transcended words. She experimented with rhythm and tempo, creating moments of surprise and delight. Some sections were gentle and flowing, others dramatic and intense. The audience responded intuitively, moving with the music, their emotions mirroring the ebb and flow of the performance. She could feel their engagement, their curiosity, their wonder. It was a dialogue without words, a connection that only music could create. Her fingers flew across the keys, confident and expressive. She added subtle improvisations, intricate patterns, and dynamic changes that made the performance feel alive and spontaneous. The audience was captivated, fully present, drawn into the story she was telling through the piano. She felt exhilarated, knowing that she had taken a risk and created something beautiful, something memorable, something that would touch the hearts of everyone listening. The hall seemed to breathe with the music. Every note, every pause, every variation resonated with the audience. She could feel their emotions, their engagement, their connection. The simple tune she had started with had grown into a complex, emotional journey, full of surprises and depth. She felt proud, not just of her skill, but of the way she had shared her heart with the world, and of the way the audience had responded. As the performance neared its end, she gradually returned to the original melody, now enriched with all the variations and emotions she had introduced. The audience listened intently, aware that the journey was coming to a close. She felt a sense of completion and satisfaction, knowing that she had given everything she had to the music, and that it had reached the hearts of those listening. The simple tune had become something extraordinary, a shared moment of beauty, courage, and human connection. When the last note faded, the hall was silent for a heartbeat, as if everyone was holding their breath, savoring the final moment. Then, slowly, applause began to rise. It started softly, almost hesitantly, but quickly grew, filling the space with sound. She felt a wave of relief, joy, and pride wash over her. She had taken a risk, trusted herself, and transformed a simple tune into something unforgettable. The audience's reaction confirmed that music, when played from the heart, could move people in ways words never could. Backstage, she felt the exhilaration of the performance lingering in her body. The audience's response had been overwhelming, a mix of admiration, surprise, and genuine emotional connection. She realized that the simple tune had become a vehicle for expression, a way to share her story and touch the hearts of others. She had taken an opportunity and made it extraordinary, and she knew that this moment would stay with her forever, shaping her future as a musician and as a person. She felt a rush of energy as she approached the final part of her performance. The simple tune she had been asked to play had evolved into a full expression of her heart, her dreams, and her courage. Every note she struck resonated with the audience, who were fully immersed, leaning forward, eyes wide, hearts open. She could feel their attention, their emotions, and their awe, and it fueled her as she gave everything she had to the piano. Her fingers moved with precision and passion, each chord deliberate yet filled with feeling. She had learned to trust the music and trust herself, to let emotion guide her hands. The simple melody had become a canvas for her imagination, and she painted it with intricate patterns, subtle variations, and dramatic flourishes. The audience responded intuitively, swaying with the rhythm, leaning in to hear the smallest notes, and letting the music speak to them in ways that words never could. As she played, she thought of all the sacrifices and struggles that had led her to this moment. The long nights of practice, the missed opportunities, the doubts she had fought through, all of it had brought her here. Each note was a reflection of that journey, and she allowed herself to pour everything into the music. The audience felt it too, sensing the authenticity and vulnerability behind every chord, every delicate touch, every bold expression. The hall seemed alive with the sound of the piano. The vibrations filled the space, reaching every corner, touching every listener. She could sense the collective heartbeat of the audience, their emotions synchronized with the rises and falls of her performance. It was no longer just a simple tune. It had become a story of resilience, courage, and triumph, and everyone present was part of it. She felt a profound connection, a shared understanding that words could never convey. She experimented with tempo and dynamics, weaving quiet, reflective passages with bold, powerful moments. The audience was captivated, completely absorbed, responding with subtle gestures, gasps, smiles, and tears. She could feel their engagement, their excitement, their emotional investment. Each variation she added was a way to bring them closer to the story she was telling, to let them feel her journey through the music. The final moments approached, and she began to bring the melody back to its original form, now enriched by all the variations, emotions, and risks she had taken. The tune carried layers of expression, telling a story of courage, hope, and joy. The audience listened intently, holding their breath, fully aware that they were witnessing something extraordinary. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing she had given everything to the performance, and that her music had reached their hearts. The last notes lingered in the hall, soft and resonant, echoing like whispers. She allowed a moment of silence to follow, letting the final sounds sink in. The audience was still, caught in the magic of the moment, feeling the weight and beauty of what they had just experienced. Then, slowly, applause began to rise. It started quietly, but quickly grew into a roar of appreciation, filling the hall with sound. People were standing, clapping, some wiping tears, others smiling with admiration. The music had touched them deeply. She felt a wave of relief and joy wash over her. The risk she had taken, the decision to expand the simple tune into something extraordinary, had paid off beyond her expectations. She had not just played notes on a piano. She had told a story, shared her heart, and connected with others in a profound way. The standing ovation, the cheers, the emotional reactions, all confirmed that she had reached them, and that her music had made a difference. Backstage, she took a moment to breathe, letting the adrenaline slowly subside. Her hands trembled slightly from the intensity of the performance, but her heart was light and full. She felt proud, not just of her skill, but of her courage, of trusting herself, and of allowing her emotions to guide the music. She had transformed a simple opportunity into a moment of triumph, creating a memory that would last a lifetime. She reflected on the journey that had brought her here. The small, unnoticed practice sessions in her room, the late nights filled with frustration and determination, the doubts and fears she had overcome, all had led to this transformative moment. She realized that the power of music lay not just in technique or talent, but in honesty, passion, and the willingness to take risks. That simple tune had become a testament to everything she believed in. The audience continued to cheer, their applause a mixture of admiration, amazement, and heartfelt connection. She could see people talking, sharing their reactions with those around them, and she felt a warmth in her chest knowing that her music had created a shared experience. The hall had become a space of unity, of emotion, of connection through sound, and she had been the bridge that made it possible. As she left the stage, she was approached by fellow musicians, organizers, and attendees who expressed their admiration and amazement. They spoke of how they had been moved, how the simple tune had become something powerful and unforgettable, how her courage had inspired them. She listened, grateful and humbled, understanding that her performance had created a ripple effect, touching lives beyond the notes themselves. She thought of the future and what this moment could mean. The concert had opened doors, not just for recognition, but for opportunities to continue sharing her music, to continue connecting with people in meaningful ways. She felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination, knowing that her journey was only beginning. This experience had shown her that even a small chance, approached with courage and heart, could lead to extraordinary outcomes. In the quiet moments after the applause, she sat at the piano one last time, letting her fingers trace the keys, reliving the performance in her mind. She felt gratitude for the journey, for the music, and for the people who had listened with their hearts. She understood that her music was more than sound. It was a language of emotion, a bridge between souls, a way to share stories without words. She walked away from the piano with a sense of fulfillment and pride. The simple tune had transformed her performance, her confidence, and her connection to others. She realized that courage, passion, and authenticity were more important than perfection, more important than playing exactly what was expected. By trusting herself and following her heart, she had created a moment of beauty that resonated with everyone in the hall. The experience left her inspired, knowing that every performance, no matter how small, could be an opportunity to express, to connect, and to inspire. She understood that music had the power to reach beyond barriers, to touch hearts, and to create lasting memories. The simple tune had been the beginning, but what she had created from it was something far greater than she could have imagined. As she left the venue, she could still feel the echoes of the music in her mind, the warmth of the audience's reaction, and the knowledge that she had made a difference. She knew that this was a moment she would carry with her forever, a reminder of what could be achieved through courage, passion, and the willingness to take a risk. The simple tune had become a triumph, a testament to the power of music and the strength of the human heart.